on one second. Okay, we're recording. So welcome, Monica. I am so thrilled that Monica is here. Monica serves with me on the ISLE Board of Directors. So I'm getting to know her, which normally I've known who you were for a long time, but now we get to work together. So I'm excited about that. So
thank you so much, Leah. Thank you for your role in organizing this wonderful symposium and for giving all of us school library workers the chance to be together. Oftentimes we work alone. And it feels alone sometimes. So I think that this event is just so important for knowledge and even just for feeling like, like we're together. And I loved in the chat too, like people are making friends and they're going like, maybe we can help each other. And I love that part. Okay. All right, so Leah, just check me on this. I am sharing my screen, selecting materials for a high school library.
Perfect, we can see it.
Great, okay, good. All right, so again, I'm Monica Caldecott. I'm the librarian at Vernon Hills High School in Vernon Hills, Illinois. That's in Lake County, sort of northwestern-ish suburbs. And out of all the topics that were offered to me for this symposium, this is the one that I picked because books are like my true love. I love my students first, and I love books second. So I am happy to be able to share on this topic. So hello, you are all my people. I love you guys. I am in my 21st year as a librarian at Vernon Hills High School. Before that, I was 5 years as an elementary school librarian in Arlington Heights, the cutest little 200 student school where all the kids walked home for lunch. It was a cool throwback. I had 2 years as a librarian at Northern Illinois University and 1 year as a reference librarian at Arlington Heights Memorial Public Library. So I always say that I've had students from kindergarten to college, and in a lot of ways, they're not that much different. They have needs, they need us in ways, they ask questions. So I am honored to serve the wider Illinois school library community in a couple of ways. As Leah mentioned, she and I are both board members of ISLE, the Association of School Library Educators, our professional organization. And I'm also a board member on RAILS, which is one of the 2 regional library systems. And I am the one board member that represents school libraries. So I'm talking the talk and walking the walk everywhere I go. I'm also a reader for the Lincoln Award, which is the high school Reader's Choice Award, and can't wait to start getting my books assigned for this year. All right, so when I think about selecting materials for a high school library, there are 3 things I want to cover. The philosophy, like what's our thought process? Some of the methods, like how do we actually do it? And of course, I'm going to leave you with some shortcuts because everyone needs a few quick things to know how to get this big task done. I'm also going to acknowledge what I feel is very true for many people in those table chats. There were a ton of people at the table chat for managing multiple schools. In this chat, there were people saying, I'm also the study hall. I saw a chat from somebody saying, I also teach 4 English classes. I mean, wow, that the workload that school libraries can put you under is significant. And so I 100% understand that selecting materials may feel like an afterthought. It may be like, oh my gosh, I just have to deal with who's in front of me today. And I can't think about the books that got published, 3 months ago. So acknowledging that. All right, so let's talk with philosophy, and maybe you'll catch on a little bit of my love of this too, and maybe you'll try to carve out some time or use your calendar and block yourself off for a half an hour a week or an hour on a Friday afternoon when everyone else is at an assembly or something to kind of do this. So I would say that a philosophy you could consider for your high school collection is to have it be as wide as possible. So I'm going to use a lot of adjectives here. So a wide collection means that students have so many choices when it's their turn to go and choose books. You give them as many choices as possible. It's a wide selection. You want to have diverse characters, different settings, different authors, not 3 shelves of the same author. Although of course my students would love me to have 5 shelves of Colleen Hoover, I'm going to branch out a little bit maybe and not have everything happening only on one author shelf. In our high school library, we have just completed an equity audit. And the idea of that is to kind of see how well we've been doing. It's our goal. It's my goal to have books with diverse characters and settings and themes, but like, how am I doing with that? And so what we did for this equity audit, and in the presentation copy that you get, I link to our equity audit, so you can see like our content of it. But what we did was we took kind of a statistically large sample of our fiction section, and book by book, we pulled each book off the shelf and we looked at what's the cover image. Does it show a student of a certain race? Does it show someone who has maybe a physical disability? Does it show a wide variety? Then we looked at the author's information. What's the author's ethnicity? What's the author's gender identity? What's their ability or neurodiversity? And we did the same for the main characters. Sometimes books are hard to figure out. Like, I don't know, there's like 10 main characters. What do I do? We sort of did our best. Or we would look up things about the author, and if they weren't really forthcoming with the fact that that they have ADHD and that's why they wrote this book, then we don't really know what their neurodiversity is, so we couldn't write it. But when possible, we tried to make that determination. And that equity audit, we're looking at the data right now, and hoping that it shows me where some gaps are, and where we're doing great and where we could do better. So a hero of mine, Dr. Rudine Bishop, a librarian and hero, famously said, hopefully you've heard some version of this, that books can be a window to the world or a mirror into yourself. And so a philosophy of high school collection could be to provide books that can be all of those things, that for any number of students could make you feel like they were reading about themselves and feeling like, yeah, like I feel that way sometimes too, or like that's how it is for me sometimes too. Or it could be a window. Like, I have no idea this is what it's like to live in this part of the world or at that time or with these limitations. We love windows and mirrors so much that in our library classroom, I turned it into a feature wall. We had this boring white wall. And so on Facebook Marketplace, I went to town buying people's old windows and mirrors. And then we used our Cricut to put the words, books can be a window, a mirror. Anyway, I forgot I forgot exactly what my words are. They were those. Books can be a window to the world or a mirror into yourself. And the cool meta thing that happens is that our sophomore lit and comp classes, they use this idea because it's a world literature class, and so they're mostly reading window books, and the teachers introduce this idea of books as windows and mirrors while they're in the library classroom. And so it's very cool. I'm always like, oh my gosh, look over there, look and see. So that is part of a good philosophy. Okay. Other adjectives I'm going to use. I'll add in, your book collection can be high and low. And that means your reading level and your interest level. We know that we have high school students who read at such a wide range of levels. You're going to have books that are good for a sixth grade reader reading level, and books all the way up to adult reading level. I almost think that, although people sometimes will say middle school libraries, like, oh my gosh, they have such a wide range. I think high school is just as wide. We have to hit all of the targets. Also think about choosing books that are different in time commitment, right? A fantasy reader might not care that there's 400 pages in that book, but most students are going to be put off by a book that big. It's very rare that I buy any book more than 450 pages. And it's probably only going to be if it's like the next book in a series, because I think about the width that book is going to have on my shelf. And I go, no, like there's no way no one's going to pick that book up, and I've just wasted $20. I think you want your collection to be deep in some, maybe not everything, right? But in some research topics and for some class needs, you got to go deep. For example, in our high school, every junior who takes US history has to participate in the history fair. And for a long time, they've recently changed it, but for a long time, the Illinois history organization, which I've just forgotten the name of, that ran history fair, had a requirement that all of the students' topics had to be Illinois history or Chicago history. And so, they could do, segregation of schools, but it had to be in Illinois or Chicago. They could do, women's right to vote, but it had to be in Illinois or Chicago. And so, oh my gosh, my Illinois and Chicago history section is huge, like way huger than a usual high school library would be. But I needed it to be that deep because our students were hitting it. Sorry, my automatic lights just went off. Okay. Another good example is we have a great class called AP African American Studies, and they need books. So my 305.8 section, which is kind of about racism and things, is like way bigger than it might be in a school where that class isn't taught. Earth science, they do a project every year on biomes. I mean, I got biomes books like there's no tomorrow because we need them. You want your collection to be top notch. Even if the Scholastic Book Fair gives you money and you get their free paperbacks, those are not top notch books. That you really, really want to have books that are worthy of being in your library, because I think that it comes off to students like, we chose the best books that there are because you're worth it, and because those are the books that you'll love too. You also got to hit all the popular stuff for sure. They walk in wanting Colleen Hoover. You got to get yourself some Colleen Hoover. They want the third book in the whatever series. You got to get that book, because I think when your students realize that you're hip and you're with it, and you know what's cool and popular, they're coming back for more, and they're gonna have those conversations with you, which are the highlight of my day a lot of times. Okay, so kind of a wrap up on philosophy, big things to think about. Okay, let's go to how do we do this thing? If you do manage to carve out, your half an hour a week or your hour on Fridays to select materials for a high school library, where are you looking? To me, a professional library review is essential. I cannot fathom doing this very important work without relying on professional library reviews. School Library Journal has some free newsletters you can get. There's one called SLJ Teen, which I love. I don't know how you do it, but get your district to get you a subscription to School Library Journal. It is about $150 a year, but maybe route a print copy through all your schools. Have a digital a login that everybody can share. You just really, really need to rely on professional reviews. These days, there's come an idea too that a book can have a resume, to not only to help promote it, right? I chose this book because of these 10 amazing reasons, but also as a way to to justify that book. If someone says, why do we have that book? Or I heard weird things about that book. The book resume, which you could help to build from professional reviews. You could say, no, this book is important in our high school library. It is recommended by these professional library reviewers. There is a reason this book is here and it's going to stay. So I really think that that's worth it. Professional library reviews. I get random phone calls from book vendors all the time. Hi, can I send you a box of our books? And you look at them and then take your own time and your effort to send them back, whatever you don't like. And I won't even give them the time of day. I say, no, I choose my books based on professional library reviews. And if your books get well reviewed, I'll find them. You don't have to call me in this method. Okay, another way is to use your vendor. If you're using an online library vendor, oftentimes they have awesome lists that can help you. I use Ingram, and they have a lot of lists. Like, this is an example they have a list called Latine Teen Fiction, and they updated it like every 2 months or something. And this was like a whole list. And so I could be like, oh, I don't have those, or oh, that looks cool. Follett School Solutions has a similar thing. Here's a list they had about diverse abilities, and you could use this list to check your collection and to kind of make sure that you're staying up on the new, the new titles, or titles that are helping you to fill what you need. Okay, the third method is to rely on your people. Your people know your school the best. And so when your staff says, when your English teachers say, we're thinking about reading this book in our class, you're like, golly darn, I'm going to buy that book for our library. If somebody says, our freshman lit circle is maybe going to be these 7 books. And if you don't have those 7 books, man, you're going to buy those 7 books because your staff has read them or wants to read them, wants their students to read them. Requests from students all day, every day. I love it when students ask me about books. In our library, there's just no way that I have room on the shelf to have every volume of every series. Oh my God, we would be overrun with books. So I will get the first book in a series, and then I'll wait for somebody to ask for book 2. And so I always make a point whenever I book talk something to say, and remember, if you want to keep reading in the series, just let me know. I'm going to get book 2 for you in some way, but I might not have space on every shelf to keep going in every series. Our student book club has so many good ideas. And I frantically take notes every Friday morning when we meet, and I'm copying down the books that they find interesting, and we'll always get some new ideas there. My fourth idea is genres with holes. And here's a photo to kind of show you. So in our library, our library is genrefied, which hopefully you had a chance to go to the table talk about that. And horror, this is the horror genre. And I apparently, it doesn't matter how many books I have in horror, it's never enough, because I look at those shelves and I go, they're half empty. I need more books in that. So that might be a thing that I pick on purpose. I'm going to buy more books in this genre because I see the holes that are there. We don't have what they want. So yes, Abigail's saying, or Becca's saying the same thing. I know horror books are there. Look at your local public library. Whenever I go in my public library, I'm picking up all their newsletters and all their lists and all their brochures and all their flyers, and I'm checking our collection, right? If they're highlighting that book in some way and I don't have it at our high school library, then maybe I've missed it and I need to, I can learn from them. Hopefully your community has a local bookstore, independent or not, like something. Use those lists. In my area, we have Read Between the Lines in Woodstock, Anderson's Bookshop, of course. Other bookstores have online lists, and those things can help you to clue into the books that you want to add to your library. Okay, shortcuts. Now we're on to the how do I make this easier? So my first suggestion for a shortcut is a company, and it costs money, and I'll talk about how much, but I really, really depend on Junior Library Guild. This is it's a division of School Library Journal, which helps you too, because you know that they're having good people help pick. It's kind of a book of the month club. It every month you decide which categories you want. Each category for the high school level is about 300 a year. It might be less at lower levels with smaller books. You get either 12 books, or if it's a category plus, you get 14 books. So you get 2 new books in September and October. And they're professionally selected by this crossover with School Library Guild, or rather School Library Journal. And I just find that knowing that every month I'm going to get a box of new books, and that will carry me through the crazy busy times when I couldn't even go to the bathroom, much less read professional reviews and put together a book list in Ingram. It just is a way to make sure that new books are always coming in. Junior Library Guild is also really cheap for extra copies. So if you subscribe to them with categories, you can go in and buy $4 copies of things that they have extra. So it's just really good. We use a spreadsheet to track what's coming, because otherwise a lot of times I would, oh man, I just bought that book and now here it showed up. So I track what we have so I don't duplicate. Other shortcuts. School Library Journal. I'm a broken record, but I go back to that, right? Every month they have starred reviews. Even if only you get the starred reviews, right? In any issue, you might have, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7 starred books. If that's all you get, then oh my gosh, you've chosen well. So just think even about that. Illinois State Library in September releases a Read for a Lifetime list. And that is, I think, 20 books at the high school level, and check that every year, and see, like, how am I doing? Do I have these books? They were picked by a group of, I don't know who they are, but they're probably awesome, cool people. And maybe you could learn, the books that they know about. The December is a favorite time, right? I'm shopping for book gifts for all the people who I love, but also shopping for my high school library, because the best books lists, they come out from everywhere. Goodreads, Chicago Public Library, I don't know, fill in the blank. A ton of other places are doing a best books list, and I check those against our catalog and say, how are we doing? Which ones am I missing? And maybe some of them I go, I don't think so. I'm going to skip that one because it doesn't sound like something that my students will read, or it sounds very similar to this other thing, but at least it's a starting point. And I tell my students, I said, I am such a sucker for a good award. Maybe because my last name is Caldecott, I have a little preference for book awards. But if a book has won an award, I just go nuts for that. So the Lincoln Award is the Illinois Teen Readers' Choice Award. The winners are announced in March, and around the same time they release the 20 nominated books for the next year. And I think to myself, a good high school library in this state, that list is essential to make sure that you're hitting that. We do quite a lot of promotion on that award. I have multiple copies. I book talk them like crazy. Last year, our school got to be the school that announced the winner. And in this, I won't click on it now, but here's the video of my awesome readers announcing the winners. American Library Association, of course, has their Youth Media Awards, right? Go nuts for the award winners, and know that you are choosing really top-notch literature and books for your students. Okay, I'm going to end with 2 little commercials. Genrefying is not related to book material selection, but I don't know, I couldn't help myself. So I am so glad that we genrefied our fiction section. We have 11 genres. Lives at the bottom is not fiction, but anyway, it hangs out over there. And it has made all the difference in us knowing what we need and in students finding what they want. Also, I 100% agree that that if you shelve books face out, it works. It totally works. So my goal in our library is to have at least one book face out on every shelf. And in this picture, you can see that little like black bumpy thing at the bottom of the difference between you and me. What that is an old, too small, I never used it bookend. And I had my husband take pliers, and he tipped the bottom end up, and now it's a book stand. And so I reused all of these old book stands they were like too short, and books fell over, and now they help keep our books face out. And here's an example. So here, this next page. So if you can see the holes in every single shelf, after a class came through to check out books, I went around the genres and I took pictures of every shelf that had a hole. And you know why it was a hole? Because there was a book that had been face out there. So I give you proof that it works. Okay, that's all I got. I thank you so much for coming to the symposium today and for choosing to hear my, hopefully maybe some good ideas about choosing, selecting materials for a high school library. All right, I'm going to stop sharing now, and we'll see if Leah tells me that I went over or went under, or we have time for.
You're perfect. We have time for a couple questions.
Okay.
And one question that came up, and this is like a hard question, and it's not exactly, well, I'm going to say it and then we can talk about it. But she's saying her kids request a lot of books that are like Colleen Hoover, Allie Hazelwood, Hannah Grace, ones where she gets very nervous about the adult content.
Yes.
I'm going to say that goes back to your collection development policy. And I assume you will say the same thing too.
Yes, for sure. And I think especially about Colleen Hoover, on the author's own website, she has a very helpful graphic where she is telling you which of her books she feels are young adult and which of her books she feels are adult. And I took the author's advice, and I only bought the books by that author that she was saying were young adult, and so that's how I get around that. So when my relationship readers come and ask, where's whatever book, I mostly, if I know the title, I go, oh, I don't think that really has a place here, but I'm sure you could find it at your public library.
A little random. Does anyone do Scholastic Book Fair for high school students? I want to do something like this, but I don't want babyish books. Any thoughts?
I don't know if there is such a thing, Scholastic for high school. I looked into that for a while, and they'll tell you that they can run their thing, but it kind of ends at like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, I think.
I agree with you, Monica.
Yeah.
You can try literati book fairs. I have not worked with them. They're only in certain areas of Illinois. I have heard great things about them, but I don't know their age ranges. So Jeanette suggested talking to Anderson's because they could probably tailor their book fair to high school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw people talking about the Read for a Lifetime list. I know I had the new one is out, but I had a reminder on my calendar for like the whole month of August and half of September before it was out.
I also wanted to say, if you're having trouble finding anything on the Illinois State Library site, they are revamping their website. They're a little bit behind and updating some things. So,
okay. Yeah,
if you need help, be sure to reach out to them. They will help you. So.
Yeah.
Okay, we have about 1 more minute. If there's any more questions for Monica. We're talking about book fairs in the chat.
Yes.
I just want to give everybody a guide for what's coming up next. We are going to break for lunch now, which is great because everybody likes to eat lunch. And then we will come back for another small group discussion at 12:15. So if you're a little bit late coming back from lunch, you're only going to miss a little bit of that small group discussion. So what was the list of genres you used for your fiction section? Monica, will you make this slideshow available, and then I'll make sure that they get it after the event.
Yes. That I think is the link, but definitely, and hold on, I should have made sure. I think that's right. When the presentation is shared, all of I put in a lot of links that you will be able to click on yourself to see our equity audit and our video and other things in there too. So hold on, let me just make sure that that's correct. Yes, nope, that was Deb's. Sorry, I was sharing when I was on. Hold on, getting it right now. Don't go anywhere. When I was sharing, when I was listening to Deb's thing, and I was sharing it with my colleagues, and it was still on
your clipboard.
Still
I
on my
do that all the
clipboard.
time.
Okay, all right, doing it now. Monica's.
Thank you. It's there.
Yep, that works. Okay, good.
Okay, and so
All right,
just
thank you all. Thank you again.
another
everybody.
Thank you, Monica, so much for presenting. I
Keep
enjoyed that tremendously.
doing awesome work.
So I'm going to end this presentation, and we will see you back here at 12:15.